Hello ladies and gentlemen, Top Hat Gaming Man here, and tomorrow is finally the release day for the Super Nintendo Mini. Yeah! Well, yeah is what the people will be saying who actually managed to pre-order one, myself included actually. I know some of you may have missed out on it, especially in the United States where they seem to roll the systems out in an utterly ridiculous way, letting them all sell out within an hour in the middle of the night. Like, how bizarre and ridiculous was that? I feel sorry for you regarding that one. Anyway, today we are specifically talking about Star Fox 2 again. If you follow me regularly on this channel, you will know I talked about the subject last week and pretty much voiced my displeasure, if that's a word, is displeasure a word, regarding the game, where I essentially said I've got quite a lot of experience playing the version that got leaked online some years ago, and I pretty much stated that I've always felt the game was pretty lackluster in comparison to the first Star Fox game in the series, aka Star Wing as it's known as in Europe. I bloody love that game. Absolutely fantastic rail shooter, absolutely great rail shooter. I had so much fun with that game in my youth, and the graphics blew me away at the time. They was great. So obviously when I learned there was a Star Fox 2, I was bloody excited. I downloaded that ROM straight a bloody way so I could play that game. And to my shock and displeasure, I was saddened to learn that the sequel wasn't a rail shooter. Basically, the entire game is just in, well, most of it, I'd say 90% of it, is in all range mode, just like some of those sections what are in Lilac Wars / Star Fox 64 as it's known as in most of the world. So yes, most of it's just in the all range mode, and it doesn't feel anywhere near as big and epic as the original, so it feels like a bit of a letdown. But the point I'm getting to anyway is that IGN have released their review of the game today and only given it a 5.0 out of 10, which is pretty much what I've said about the game previously. It just isn't very good. But here's the amusing part. I personally think that this review is pretty accurate, but for some reason I'm seeing these hilarious Nintendo fanboys and members of the retro gaming community all over like social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter all be going like, "Wee! You can't give Star Fox 2 a bad review, it's from 1995! How dare you! You're trying to judge the game by the standards of today when really you should be judging the game by standards of 1995! Well, I've got to say, I agree with the IGN reviewer on this one, although as you know I've had some not so nice things to say about IGN in the past, I suppose. But yes, I actually agree with IGN on this one. I personally think, and as I have stated many times on this channel before, I believe that the best games are like fine wines, and they just get better and better with age, or at least stay as good as they were on release. Like, look at most of the games on the Super Nintendo Mini. Super Mario World, Link to the Past, what else is on the console? Donkey Kong Country, all of those games are just as fun now as they was back then. Street Fighter 2, you've got the same thing. That is just as good a fighter as any fighting game what is on the market today. You can't say that about Star Fox 2. It's not a great game. It's just not very good. It wasn't very good in 1995 if it had been released. It's not very good now. Like, there was a reason it was obviously cut, because it just was substandard in comparison to the previous Star Fox game and in comparison to Star Fox 64 what they released after that. And I'm not trying to defend Star Fox 2 amusingly, even though you may think I might want to be standing up for my fellow Brit Dylan Cuthbert, who kind of got his project got cut by Miyamoto, from what I gather, well, Nintendo. Anyway, so yes, even though Star Fox 2 is British produced, I'm still slandering it in this video. But yes, let's get on subject to IGN again. So many people seem to be really annoyed that IGN have dared to give Star Fox 2 this bad review. And it seems to be that the grounds for most people's argument is just because it's from 1995. So that just seems odd to me. As I said, some of the reviewer's points, I must say, do seem a little bit off. Like, he stated in the little 2-minute video he'd done on it that the controls were poor. Personally, I've always found the controls with Star Fox and its sequel Star Fox 2, great. There's no issues with the controls whatsoever. So I don't really understand the point he was making there. And the other point as well, he says something along the lines of that basically the game looked bad in 1995 graphically, which sounds a bit ridiculous to me because I don't think there's anything on the Super Nintendo with that many polygons in it at all, to my knowledge. So I think it looks pretty impressive for the Super Nintendo in terms of graphics. But graphics, as I've said on this channel many times, don't deliver a quality gaming experience, do they? We know it's the all-round things. It's the gameplay that makes a game. And the gameplay, it lacks in bloody Star Fox 2. It's not very good in comparison to the others. And speaking of IGN, for once, I actually think they've got it right with this one. I think 5 out of 10 is quite an accurate review. If anything, it's a little bit generous. If something is poor, why would you give it 5 out of 10? That's being generous, isn't it? That's halfway towards being good. Do you know what I mean? Like, in reality, if you wanted to be fair, you'd really want to give it like 20 or 30% or something like that, because it's pretty poor. But yes, in regards to my previous disagreements with IGN scores in the past, I think they can be way too generous with giving out 10 out of 10s on certain Nintendo games. Like, why the bloody hell have they given so many Zelda games 10 out of 10? Like, even the lackluster ones, they still give 10 out of 10. Even though you're playing another game from a completely different franchise, which feels like a way more enriching, better gaming experience, and they give it a lower score. Like, I'll give you some examples of the ridiculous Zelda scores, which I've done a whole nother video on, which triggered the same Nintendo fanboys who seem to be triggered that Star Fox 2 got 5 out of 10. But yes, they gave bloody Skyward Sword 10 out of 10. Like, come on, how ridiculous is that? Skyward Sword, the game with the broken motion controls, the game with the uninspiring world where you fly around in that stupid bird up in the sky. Just Skyward Sword, it's just not a very good game in comparison to other Zelda games in the series. Other Zelda games which they've given like 8 out of 10 and 9 out of 10. The Skyward Sword got a 10 out of 10 for some reason. Don't ask me why. But yes, what else? They gave Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. They gave both those games 10 out of 10. Even though they pretty much just feel like ROM hacks of Link's Awakening. Like, those games, even though they're much newer, they just look like I said, exactly what I said. They look like fan hacks of the original Link's Awakening game. So yes, I don't know why those games got higher scores than Link's Awakening. That's odd too. And another one which they gave a 10 out of 10, which inspired me to make the original video moaning about IGN, was Breath of the Wild. Like, seeing 10 out of 10 for that game made me purchase a Nintendo Switch on launch day when I was over in Thailand. And obviously the Nintendo Switch was never even released in Thailand, so I had to pay a premium to buy the console in a country where the system wasn't even released. So I paid a premium to play, what's it called, Breath of the Wild. And then it wasn't a 10 out of 10 game. It was literally exactly like every other modern game, just one of your like open world everything games, like open world, and you just like, you know, like Skyrim, GTA, all of those modern games where you get on like the Xbox One and PS4. Breath of the Wild is just another one of those, if you know what I mean. Like, nothing original about it. It literally just feels like you're playing, oh, it's another AAA title, not a Zelda title. It just feels like a AAA title. You see, I'm going off track a bit here, but all I'm saying is, yes, I agree that IGN do make mistakes sometimes, but I don't feel they have made a mistake regarding Star Fox 2. In fact, apart from a couple of points they made, I actually agree with the 5 out of 10 score, but I think giving games like Breath of the Wild 10 out of 10 is utterly ridiculous. It's just stupid, isn't it? So yes, again, we're talking. Speaking of, this is rehashing something from that old Zelda video game. I mentioned that giving games review scores out of 10 out of 10 is absolutely ridiculous, because technically 10 out of 10 is 100%. 100% means perfect. Even though they've listed that their 10 out of 10 doesn't mean perfect, logically and mathematically, it doesn't make sense to grade something 10 out of 10 unless it's perfect. It just doesn't make any sense. So yes, I agree that with all of you that scoring games is sometimes utterly stupid, and IGN a lot of the time are utterly stupid, but I think we can all agree on as well that many Nintendo fanboys and fellow members of the retro gaming community can also be equally as stupid as IGN. We just live in a massive world full of stupid people with stupid opinions. Cheerio!